Hi everyone, so this is another idea about how to use Paint 3D in your classroom. So Paint 3D is on any Windows 10 machine, and we've all got it on our laptops, so even if you did something as a class or if you've got an interactive board you could do something, but all the students that have got Windows 10 in year 9 that have got their own devices will have this. So even if you've got some students that haven't got it, they could pair up and work in a team. So one of the ideas around how to use it is actually really trying to get students to think critically and problem solve, but being creative at the same time. And I think this is a really cool piece of software that you could do quite a few things in. And one of them is sort of invention type things. Okay, so I guess in technology this fits in really well, but you could get them to think back about historical events and inventions that if they were there, they could have been used. It might be something that's got sort of cultural significance. But yeah, just getting them to think about different ways of doing things or working together to solve a problem. So one of the ideas is splitting the students up and getting them to think about creating objects. So in Paint 3D, you've got 3D shapes, which is up here. So this is 2D shapes. This is just drawing or brushes. And this is 3D shapes. Because the students are quite used to paint, they'll kind of probably be quite familiar with a lot of the tools, even though this looks quite different. I'm always amazed at what students can actually create just using, basic paint and how creative they can be. So anyway, we're in 3D shapes, and over here you've got 3D objects. Okay, so you could set a problem or a group of problems for students. One of the ideas being that you write out actions on pieces of paper. So you write out things like can carry water, can withstand being dropped from a height, can move from one place to another. So actions that an object can do. And they either pick them out of the box or they have to randomly select them, or they end up with a group of these actions and they have to invent things that are based on these. Okay, so it's really getting them to think about problem solving, critical thinking, and in terms of key competencies, obviously there's going to be lots of key competencies that they're going to cover within that. Obviously you're going to relate it to a topic or something that possibly they're doing. So I guess really it's just getting them to mess around with shapes and make their inventions with the shapes that are in 3D. So they've got cylinders, you've got spheres, okay, and they can change the color of any of these. So you can go edit color. You can add color, not use that one. Okay, so they can select any color to their palette. That's cool. Okay, once they've got their shape in, they can rotate it around. Obviously a sphere is going to be pretty boring because it's going to look the same, but their cylinder they can rotate around that way and they can move their shapes around. Then they go back to their 3D shapes, okay, and you might get them to okay, so it might be that this connects into here. They need to be able to kind of really rotate the shapes around and see where they are so that they can interconnect them or make them link in some way. If they want to select multiple and move multiple objects, then they need to highlight both at the same time. I'm now going to add, what can I add? I can add little wheels. So I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to make my cylinder really short. And I'm going to rotate my cylinder around. Oops. Oh. Why is it not letting me select my cylinder? Come on, cylinder. Here we go. Okay, and again, you've really got to sort of move it around so that you can actually see where everything is in relation to everything else. So it is a little bit fiddly, but I just think, you know, giving them sort of something that they've got to create, and then they've maybe got to justify what it does and how it does it. I just think, you know, from a critical thinking perspective, um, and a creative perspective, it's just something that would be really cool. The other thing is there's models up here, so you could get them to, you know, put a story to their object, or there's also, oops, there's also dogs and things. And get more models will bring in your model library. Okay, so I've shown this in another tutorial, but basically in the model library there is oodles and oodles and oodles of different models and animals and all sorts of things. So I mean, you could get quite creative if they're sort of telling a story or depicting a particular time in history, or um, doing something about the environment, or doing something on healthy eating, or you've got solar systems, plant, you know, there's just all sorts of different models. And I think the fact that they're 3D just makes it more interesting, basically. And the kids, you know, the students can have a really good play, produce something, and, you know, work in teams or working groups and really get their sort of creative minds flowing. So have a play, and yeah, it'd be great to get some feedback if you have used it in class. Let us know.